So I hope that the pen tool wasn't too frustrating for you. We're going to talk now about some control over it and some exercises that we can do. So I've included some files for you to experiment with. And these are some files that I found online years ago and sort of adapted to fit my style a little bit more. So if you open up the files I gave you and open up pentool1.ai, you'll see this file here. And this file is it's 3 pages or 3 artboards that'll hopefully get you a little bit used to how the pen tool works. So here's what we're going to do. If we start off at the far left page, page 1, we can zoom in nice and close, and you'll see pen tool exercises. And first thing I want you to pay attention to are these little examples up here. So these cursor tips, a pen tool with an X, a pen tool with a caret, pen tool with a slash, with a circle, with a plus, with a minus, all have different meanings. You have to pay attention to your tooltip. So the corner point sign means it's going to change the corner point, either make something that was a rounded corner angled or an angled corner round, is that little caret symbol. That X means it's going to start a new path. The slash means it's going to pick up on a path that already existed, so you're going to kind of start back on a line or continue a line. The circle closes your path or ends your shape. A plus sign will add more anchor points. A minus sign will delete anchor points. It'll all make more sense as we start moving. Now, anytime you see a blue dot, it means you're going to click. And if you don't see anything else, then you can let go as well. If you see a red dot, that's basically where you would let go. So you would click on blue, drag to red, let go with the red. And if you see a green, that means we're going to relocate a handle to the green. And again, all that will make more sense momentarily. So the very first one I'm going to start with is this straight lines object. I'm going to set this up in a certain way so that you can see really easily how this can look. One important thing is for your fill, you want no fill color for this, because if we have a fill, we're just going to cover over what we're drawing. It's going to be very hard to figure out. I'm going to change the color to something very different. I'm going to go to a magenta and do a 2 or 3 stroke line. And I do this for a few reasons. It looks totally different than anything on the page. I won't get confused. I used to do this in classrooms so that I could see what everybody was doing no matter where I was in the room. I could see on their screen nice and easy, but this is just a nice kind of simple way to work. All right, so on this first one, it's just connect the dots. I'm going to click on the number 1. And now I'm going to go to the number 2, and I'm going to click there. Now, if I wanted that to be a perfectly straight line when I go to number 3, I could just click on number 3. But if I want to make sure, see how I'm up on a little bit of an angle or maybe down a little, if I hold Shift will make sure that I'm always either straight across, straight up, or 45. So in this case, if I had done that from 1 to 2, it wouldn't have been an actual 45 angle. But if I hold Shift for number 3, I'm going to hold Shift down, click on 3, and now I let go of Shift. So watch what happens if I hold Shift for 4. It puts it out there. I don't want that. I want number 4 to be right where it is. I'm going to hold Shift for 5, let go. I'm not going to hold it for anything. And honestly, if the Shift part's confusing you, if you don't hold anything down for this one, as long as you try to get it pretty straight, you should be okay. So see right here how I overshot it a little bit? That's fine for right now. And just try to get this as straight as you can and as level as you can. Again, holding Shift occasionally will help you. Not for these angles. And you're really just working your way through a connect the dots until I get back to the first shape and I see that little close symbol, that little circle up here. And when I click on that, I have a completed shape, this thing that I kind of traced out. Now, if I grab my arrow key and click off of it, I can see if I click back on this, I can move it around. And I have that sort of tree shape all set. I just Command Z, put it back in place. Right, straight lines are nice and simple. Moving on, I'm going to go to my curved line exercise. Same option, no fill, and I want just a nice kind of standout stroke. And this is going to be a little different. I'm not just going to click once. I'm going to click and I'm going to hold. And you can see on my screen it'll be red, so you know that I'm not letting go yet. I'm going to drag over to number 2, and now I'm going to let go. And what that did is that preset a handle. It's telling the line that it wants to go that way. If I click on number 3, well, that's kind of my arc, but that doesn't really look like that gray line underneath. I'm trying to trace that gray line. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to move further left, and when I get to about the number 4, I can let go. Now, that handle that shoots out to the number 4, not only did it fix this kind of back half of this curve, it's also setting the front half of this curve. Click on blue, drag over, let go when I get to the red. And these might not all line up exactly for you. It depends on where exactly you click, but it should be pretty close. Click on blue, drag to red, and worry more about the gray line than you do about the dots. The dots are there as a guideline. Don't ignore the gray line for the dots. Focus on the gray line. Now, if I try to start another one, I still have this tail. I'm still connected. So I can do a few different things here. I could hit escape, or I could hit the letter P to start my pen tool again. That's how I got to my pen tool in the first place. That's kind of what I always do. So I just hit the letter P, and now I'm broken from there, and I'm ready to start a new one. Let's do this exercise next, which is the curves with corner points. So I'm going to click on 1, and I'm going to drag to number 2. Now I'm going to click on 3, and I'm going to let go. Because watch what happens if I click and drag on number 3. It's going to do that, and I definitely don't want that. I want that gray line. As soon as I click on number 3, great, we're good. But if I click on number 5 now, I might be able to get it. But an easier way, or kind of a safer way, is to go here and see that little caret that appears. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to just drag that caret down to here. And what that did was that preset my next curve. So this is, again, it without it. See, my line goes straight. It wants to make a straight line. I'm going to go make sure I can see that caret up here. It only works once I can see the caret. If I don't see the caret, if I'm lazy and I'm imprecise and I go here, this is just going to mess things up. Have to see that caret up here. Click and drag down to about there. And now click here once. Great. Click right back on that same spot because I can see that caret up here. Number 6 to 7. Make sure I can see that caret up here. Down to 8. To 9. And now I'm done with my shape. I can hit the letter P. All right. And that gives me that nice kind of wave shape. So that's another way that we can use the pen tool. So we get these right angles or these hard angles, these smooth curves, or these kind of crested waves where they're curved and sharp. Now this one gets a little more complicated. Again, the numbers are there just as a guide. Really think about the gray shape more than anything else. I'm going to click at the top, and I'm going to drag over to here. And now I see where 3 is, and I want you to think about why you're doing this. So I want this line to come down here and out a little bit. So I'm going to click and drag out a little. Click on number 5, drag up a little. Click on 7, drag out. And you should be able to do these at your own pace. Shouldn't be too complicated once you start to get the hang of it. So again, I'm focusing more on the gray line than any of the other stuff. So that's 14 to 15, 15 to 16, 17 to 18, 19 to 20. And sometimes this gets a little funky, and I'll show you exactly how you fix it. But occasionally, actually, it worked out well then. Sometimes it'll make number 1 a little weird, and that gives you that little kind of swirl star shape. All right, and we closed that shape, so we're all set. Once you have that page done, you might have to try it a couple times, delete them, give it a shot. When you feel like you've gotten comfortable with it, move on to this one. All right, so page number 2. We're going to combine these points and curves, each curve getting a little bigger, Not exactly the same as what we did for the waves, and you'll see how that changes. They're not symmetrical. That's the big difference. So if I click on 1, I drag to 2, all I'm doing is, again, presetting that curve a little bit so I can see where it wants to go. I'm going to click on 3, drag out to 4. Looks great. It's in the line. And now what happens when I try to go down here? Well, it wants to do this curve that follows this handle. This handle here, it helped me set the back half of this curve, but it's now telling Illustrator there's a good chance it wants to continue this way. And I need to get rid of that information. I need to change that. The easiest way I can do that is if I hold Option, I temporarily get my Convert Anchor Point tool, also known as just your Anchor Point tool, or your Corner tool. And if I click right on where it says I'm right on that spot and I can move it, you see that blue line moving, and I'm just going to put it over here where the green is. So I'm relocating it to the green. And now my line wants to go backwards because that handle that was telling it where to go has changed, right? If I dragged it, hold Option, click right on it. If I drag it up here, my line's going to want to go up there. If I drag it down here, my line wants to go down here. If I drag it back to my green, my line's going to want to kind of arc out like that. All right. So I'm going to do that. Hold Option or Alt, drag back. 12. And this one, so the number didn't work out exactly okay for me. That's fine. It's just a rough idea. Probably shoot out a little further on this one as well. Okay, and now hit the letter P, finish my line. And there it is. All right, now let's combine straight lines with curves. And this one, there's a lot of numbers on. This one will get a little tricky at first. I'm sure you guys will be fine with it though. Click on number 1, I drag up to number 2. So I'm setting my curve, right? Click on 3, drag down to number 4. I'm setting the back half of my curve. But again, once I let go, now it wants to go this way. So I can do a couple things. I can hold Option just like I did a minute ago, and I can move this point. Or another kind of shortcut is if I click right back on that point just once, just click, it kills that second handle. It terminates that handle. And now I can go perfectly straight. I click once, I get that straight line. I click again, I drag up. So by clicking once, I can put the point there. By clicking a second time, I can draw a handle. By clicking on a point that already has a handle, I can kill that handle. Come down here. Click back on that same point because I don't want that bottom curve. And the most important thing is that you understand why you're doing what it is you're doing. Click on this one, drag it straight up so I can preset my curve. And those curve presets, they might not seem super important on something like this. When you get to really sharp curves, they will become pretty necessary depending on what you're drawing. Click once, click again, draw the handle up. Click, draw my handle down. And letter P. Finish it. All right. You could also hit the letter V and jump to your arrow tool if you want to just click off, and then you got to go back to your letter P. All right. If you have both of these done and they look pretty solid, great job. We'll move on to page 3. These are not numbered. So these will give you a little bit of a harder time. Now I will give you this tip. This one is 2 different shapes. One of them is not closed. So we'll kind of go through that in a minute. So I'm going to start at this one right here where this line is. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Click and lift up. Go to my second dot. Click and drag down. That looks pretty good. And again, those dots are just there as a reference. So if I'm not on it, that's okay. I'm going to swing this handle up so that I can get that curve there. Now I'm going to swing this handle out because I have this, this cloud kind of bubble look. All right, and each one of these I just sort of swing. And I just realized I'm going to Command Z that because I clicked in the wrong spot. I'm going to click there instead. Drag up. Hold my handle, move down. All right. Again, move my handle around. Some of these will get a little confusing if you just look at the dots. You want to really focus specifically on the gray and figure out why you're doing each of these steps. And lastly, now here's something that this is kind of what I was talking about before. By fixing this one, it broke this one. What I can do is hold Option, click on that handle, and just flip that handle back. Just put it back in place. That's all that I need to worry about with that. All right. Next piece, I'm just going to click somewhere around the blue. And now I could preset a curve a little bit if I wanted. So I could click on the blue and drag out just a little to the red. Click on the blue again. And however you want to do this one is okay. So I'm actually going to go off of this. I'm not going to follow this, just to show you another option. I'm going to click there. I'm going to click here. And if you see, that's one of those reasons that the preset curves is kind of nice, so I don't get that like bounce back. I could always go back and fix it though. And that's the other nice thing about these is they don't have to be perfect the first time you do them. You can always go back and change things. So with this one, for example, I'm just going to get rid of that point, go back to my pen tool. I'm just going to work backwards here. All right. And there you go. So now, if I zoom out a little, I can see those two shapes give me that little tree setup. All right, the last one. This is going to be the hardest one. Starting at this point, can you trace out that shape? So, go here and figure out where you think you would need to be to get that kind of shape. You're trying to stay as close to the gray as you can. Right? So you're going to have to do some kind of guesswork, a lot of trial and error. For this, I'm not going to show you an exact way to do it. I don't want to give you too many hints. I want to kind of let you start to figure out where to go on your own with this. It is very much doable. There are a ton of different answers. There's not necessarily a right way to do it. All right, so something like that is the first half of it. All right. So that gives you the first half. I'm not going to show you how to do the second half other than that right there. So you're going to then kind of come in and do the second half and close it. If you can get all of those and you can get those two shapes to look right and as smooth as possible. And one other tip, I'm going to say this over and over and over again, but the less anchor points you use, the smoother things will look. So try to use the least amount of anchor points possible. All right. And if you can get that going in just a few anchor points and get this looking solid, save this entire file. So Command S or File Save. And you can close this and open up the next file I have to take this a little bit further. So let's give that one a try when you're ready.